Now, the Iranians are facing, and I look at these scenarios in the book. I mean, one of the scenarios I look at is the Iranians counterattack with everything they have. And what would that happen with our deep-water Navy stuck in the little pond called the Persian Gulf? And I also look at what would happen if they went and attacked Israel just to bring Israel in the war. But I also look at what might happen if America politically, the American administration can't get into the war, and so Plan B is Israel strikes Iran, and that forces them to defend Israel.
Well, I think this.
But there's a third.
Go ahead, please.
There's a third and final scenario, which I look at in the Black Flags of Our Martyrs chapter 8 of Iran, Nostradamus, the War with Iran, is what if the Iranians do nothing, and that we hit 1,200 targets, we blow up their reactors, and except for doing what any country would do, defend the 12 miles of sea in front of their coast or shoot at anything that's in their airspace, what if they took the blow? Even then, it would become the Pearl Harbor event for the Islamic world.
Yes.
What might transcend. Here's I finally answering a question about what could make the caliphate happen, what could stop a civil war between Shia and Sunni, is the very hubris of an attack. And if the Iranians did nothing in response, didn't hit Israel, didn't do anything, the Islamic world would rise up against Israel and America in this, and then you might still have a popular uprising throughout the Islamic world that would overthrow Western-friendly governments like Mubarak in Egypt, even the Turkish government, even the government that was trying to put up. Yes, and then you have the front. If Iran were to respond, they would respond on the streets of Baghdad with 60,000 martyrs. The Ahmadinejad has boasted, at least, that if Iran was bombed by America, they would unleash an army of 60,000 suicide bombers. Probably many of them are already infiltrated into Iraq. The other thing that could happen is if the Shia rebelled and rose up against the occupation, all the lines of communication of our 170,000 soldiers, and probably add another 100,000 civilian contractors and mercenaries, would the roads out or the roads of communication and supply would be blocked off by Iranian weapons, Iranian shape-charged explosions, and basically that army would have its lines of communication cut and supply and would force America out of Iraq. They'd have to fight their way to Kuwait. And you could see the response, rather than the response they're hoping will happen, that Iran will just crumble or do absolutely nothing. They may do nothing to respond to Israel or to our fleets, but they may actually make it untenable for us in Iraq.
John Hogue, I want to thank you very much for an incredibly provocative and intelligent look at the explosive situation in the Middle East through the eyes of a prophet. Don't miss John's website, HogueProphecy.com, for